A wise woman once told me, a fish rots from the head. It's a famous quote, but the first time I ever heard of it was earlier this week, while my professor was talking about how group projects fall apart if the leader isn't invested. That's the case with California High-Speed Rail. You see, California High-Speed Rail is the fish, and the state the project is literally named after is the head, with the federal government that comprises the rest of the US states as the body. I say all that to say this. It's not Obama's fault, it's not Trump's fault, and it's not Biden's fault that this project is in a rotting condition. It's the state politicians who run their mouth about the importance of this project rather than actually funding it. You can't expect a federal government, which barely funds Amtrak by the way, our national passenger rail system, to fund a project that solely resides in the state of California, when the spineless politicians of said state are scared to fund it themselves. Welcome to your California High-Speed Rail update.
I would not have gone to the ballot then with knowing so little about what we're ultimately trying to do and asked for only $9 billion. A pamphlet on that same election said the project was going to be $45 billion, and the public gave us $9 billion. So from day one, you're starting with, I'm underfunded, and now I got to spend a lot of time finding the money. And the longer that takes, the more expensive this is going to get.
Please exit through the rear door.
Doors open.
As always, thanks to my patrons. Your donations make this content possible. This is a part of the authority's initial $500 million investment in Southern California infrastructure projects. The other $76.7 million went towards the grade separation project in Santa Fe Springs. The grade separation project is set to open in 2025. It opened. A couple things to know about the station at Palmdale. The station will be 6 tracks with anticipation for Brightline West. The Metrolink platform will be relocated next to the high-speed rail platforms. The Sierra Highway will have to be realigned, and there's a giant flyover connecting California High-Speed Rail with Brightline bypassing Palmdale, hinting at the idea of through running. It should be noted that unlike Palmdale's current track and station layout, the new track and station layout will be completely grade separated, with the city of Palmdale taking a page out of the Rio Grande plan, utilizing Denver Union Station's transit-oriented development layout as inspiration. Now the platform situation at Palmdale is pretty interesting. Palmdale will have 9 tracks, with 6 of them serving 3 island platforms, and 3 of them being used as bypass tracks, 2 of them for California High-Speed Rail, and 1 for freight. Since the Palmdale station is built on a slight hill, the Express California High-Speed Rail tracks will be built slightly lower, that way California High-Speed Rail Express trains can continue through the station at high speeds without being impacted by the steep grade that trains stopping at the station would have to climb. Brightline West will serve the westernmost track, let's call it track 1, and it will also serve track 6. This means that a large flyover would need to be built for track 1 to pass over the California High-Speed Rail tracks, connect to track 6, and another large flyover to pass over the Metrolink and freight tracks, finally connecting to the High Desert Corridor to the east. The other half of the Y connecting the High Desert Corridor to California High-Speed Rail in the direction of Bakersfield has been dropped from the plans as of now. This would have allowed for full-on Brightline California High-Speed Rail through running bypassing Palmdale. This was probably value engineered out in order to save money during initial construction. Welcome to Bakersfield. Bakersfield is one of the largest cities in the Central Valley with a population of over 400,000. Bakersfield is actually the 48th largest city by population in the US. For the record, Tampa, Florida, a city that Brightline Florida is actually planning to expand to, is the 49th. As of September 2025, Bakersfield is now the 47th largest city in the US. The city's population grew by 10,000 the last time we talked about it. So you'd have to be a literal NPC, a bot, if you think that the Central Valley is the middle of nowhere. And if you still believe that, here's some advice given by AI. I mean, from a bot to another bot, you might find it helpful.
If you take your top lip and connect it to your bottom lip, you will shut the f up. Sometimes shutting the f up is the best thing you can do.
As you can see, the station consists of 2 side platforms with 2 bypassing tracks going through the center. The station will also be completely elevated. Just like most things the authority doesn't have funding for, the design keeps changing. Here's the most recent rendering of the station. Every single Central Valley station is being downsized, aside from Madera, which has already been downsized. California High-Speed Rail gave their stations in the Central Valley the Ozempic treatment, so now the platforms are 43% shorter, 34% slimmer, with the station itself being reduced from 4 tracks to 2 tracks, with the viaduct in Bakersfield that the station sits on being lower. I'm happy these train stations are becoming more utilitarian, even though as a New Yorker I'm sad to see the express tracks go. I mean, I'm all for building large, beautiful stations, but
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
And that goes for every project that struggles with funding out there. Don't sacrifice efficiency or your entire project for grandeur. On the top right, you can see the Cross Valley Corridor. It runs along existing right-of-way and is projected to open sometime in the 2030s. Unlike the Amtrak train shown here, the service will most likely be operated by a light DMU. The total cost of the Cross Valley Corridor is projected at $489 million, which is comparatively lower than most US rail projects. So why wait till the 2030s? I don't know. The Cross Valley Corridor is going to be really useful regardless if the high-speed rail is in place or not. It's not like there isn't any other rail connection. The San Joaquin service still exists. The Cross Valley Corridor is planned to be served by double-decker, battery-powered buses for the first phase. These buses are planned to run every 30 minutes. The project is planned to be completed by fall 2027 at a cost of $61 million. Anyways, the next stop is Fresno, population 544,000. That's around 20,000 people more than Sacramento. You know, one of the cities that phase 2 is supposed to extend to, but
the Central Valley is the middle of nowhere.
The population of Fresno grew by 6,000 since the last time we talked about it, with a total population now at 550,000.
Take your top lip and connect it to your bottom lip.
The orange highlighted section shows what the authority is currently building. You might notice it doesn't extend all the way to Merced or Bakersfield. Yeah, this is because the authority literally doesn't have enough money to finish. This also means that the authority will most likely finish the middle section a couple years before the ends. Oh boy, I said a couple years. The California High-Speed Rail Authority corrected me and said, try decades. They said, how about let's just skip Merced altogether, leave that for phase 2. Cause low key, you know what's gonna be easier? Building a freaking tunnel to Gilroy. You know what? I can relate to that cause I too am broke. And sometimes I come up with weird impractical solutions to my dilemmas, only to be reminded that the only reason I'm in this dilemma in the first place is because I'm broke. Subscribe to my Patreon. Sticking with California, welcome to your Dumbarton Rail Corridor Explained update.
There is an idea floating to rebuild the bridge, provide a new path to major tech hubs.
It was built in 1910 and used mostly for freight, but then fell out of service, and then back in the 90s was damaged by a fire. With no funding, talk of rebuilding stayed just that, talk.
This rail bridge is going to get built. I'm going on record right here and now that eventually this rail bridge will get built.
It'll be the first new bay crossing built since 1974.
Yeah, so nothing's happening. Welcome to your Brightline Explained update.
Private companies are bidding to build and to operate the high-speed rail.
The addition of integrated real estate development aligns two economic engines that directly support one another that has more than one way to pay the bills.
We cannot afford to let this opportunity pass us by.
Aventura also has low-level platforms. This is for a future commuter rail service that starts at Miami Central and terminates at Aventura. This Miami-Dade commuter rail project is called the Northeast Corridor. This project is now in the engineering phase, with the potential operators slated to be chosen soon. These potential operators of the new commuter railroad route include Tri-Rail, the Miami-Dade County Transit Authority, and Brightline. Yeah, so the Florida East Coast Railway is suing Brightline over this project. What is happening in this video? Oh, exactly what I said would happen 2 years ago? Let's roll the clip. Fortress Investment Group would completely sell off the Florida East Coast Railway to Grupo Mexico in 2018. Grupo Mexico is essentially a rail Goliath in Mexico. They have the largest rail fleet in the nation, as are the same company that owns 74% of Ferromex. This means that the Florida East Coast Railway would no longer be a subsidiary of Florida East Coast Industries. But with the deal, Florida East Coast Industries will keep their trackage rights over the Florida East Coast Railway. In other words, Brightline doesn't own the trackage from Miami to Cocoa, so that's not the reason why they're allowed to run trains on it. The freight company is legally obligated to allow them to. I don't know, but that sounds a little bit familiar to another railroad in the US. I definitely don't see this setup becoming a problem in the future. Anyways, I swear, some people just think I'm hating or I'm a madman ranting to you every single time. I'm I'm not mad. I just know what I'm talking about. Excuse me if I'm the only person that's actually trying to put like the truth out there. That's why it's called the truth about high-speed rail. I'm simply not delusional, and I don't want you guys to be either, because that's how we get into these situations in the first place. The Florida East Coast Railway said, desperate to salvage some of its investors' funds, Brightline has covertly engaged in a years-long campaign to starve off its own financial problems by loading Florida East Coast Railroad's tracks with more passenger trains.
Allegedly, that's ignorant.
The Florida East Coast Railway continues. Brightline kept Florida East Coast Railway in the dark because it knew full well that its expansion plan not only threatened to significantly disrupt Florida East Coast Railway's freight service, but was also impossible without substantial new investment in track and facility infrastructure, which Brightline certainly could not afford.
Allegedly! I'm weary of this conversation. Can we please stop talking, please? Ignorant.
The Florida East Coast Railway continues. Today, the company teeters on the brink of insolvency and financial collapse. But rather than gratitude for the use of the Florida East Coast Corridor, Brightline wants more trains and more profit. And to obtain it, Brightline colluded behind the Florida East Coast Railway's back to dispossess the Florida East Coast Railway of its own property and load the railway tracks with passenger trains at a volume that the tracks cannot safely handle without significant investment that Brightline cannot afford.
Oh my God.
Speaking of safety, time to update the Brightline death counter. Last time we talked about it, the Brightline death count was at 182. It is now at 185. 186 actually, somebody just died while I was making the video. Again, I don't expect Brightline to do anything about this. It's not fully their fault, but I'm not absolving them of any blame. They are a private company, and private companies tend to put profits over people, which we see Brightline do countless times, whether it be their employees or their own riders. But the majority of the blame for these Brightline fatalities is on FDOT. There's no way that as a Department of Transportation, you can see these grade crossings and give the thumbs up. FDOT needs to force the counties to close down some of these grade crossings. There's just too many of them. And if closing them down is a problem, then you need to grade separate it. But Brightline cannot be the one to pay for it. Because not only was the railroad there first, but as both me and the Florida East Coast Railway have pointed out, Brightline ain't nothing but a broke boy. So let's take a look at their financial situation. Brightline has over $3.2 billion in tax-free bonds, which is very important to remember. Brightline has to pay this money back. This means that Brightline is actually in debt. So in all honesty, as much as it pains me to say this as a passenger rail advocate, Brightline could go belly up in a similar fashion to the old Auto Train Corporation. But then we'd probably just end up with New Amtrak Florida service available January 2037. Get your tickets at www.amtrakflorida.com. That's www.amtrakflorida.com. Yeah, so Amtrak Florida might be coming sooner than we thought. In June, Fitch Ratings, a worldwide financial and credit rating service, downgraded Brightline's bonds, putting it in the negative watch category, essentially telling private investors that Brightline isn't all what they said they would crack out to be, considering 4 things: a lower ridership than expected, lower fares than expected, elevated operating costs, and a significant spin down of the project's liquidity accounts, aka Brightline is burning through money as their cash reserves are depleting rapidly. So essentially Wall Street is getting their shovels ready not to break ground on a new expansion, but to dig a grave for the company, as they don't believe that Brightline will be able to pay the debt back. Brightline, the private rail line linking Orlando to Miami, refinanced $989 million of junior debt at a record high 14.89% yield, reflecting deep investor concern after delaying a July interest payment on $1.2 billion in munis. The company, already downgraded deeper into junk by S&P and Fitch, faces falling ridership. That is false. The ridership has been increasing, but it is 53% below projections. and the revenue is 67% below estimates, plus a potential cash shortfall this corridor without equity infusion. This is a reminder that non-traditional, revenue-dependent projects carry extreme credit and liquidity risks, especially in the absence of essential service backing or state/local guarantees, which is something I've been saying for years now. This project, just like the Florida High-Speed Rail project, was supposed to be led by the state. But unfortunately, Florida state politicians don't have enough spine to move the project along. And therefore, the fish is rotting from the head. But unlike California High-Speed Rail, Brightline is not written in the state's constitution. Therefore, Brightline doesn't have the capacity to rot. If the government on the local, state, or federal level doesn't step in, then in the next few years, Brightline Florida just might be featured in my abandoned series. Hey yo, before I leave, let me just show you guys this clip. For some context, this guy was trespassed and kicked off of Tri-Rail.
How the I'm supposed to get to work from Broward to Broward from Palm Beach? I don't have a car. You gonna tell me I can't catch public transportation?
Take the Brightline.
The Brightline? Yeah. That's more expensive.
He said calmly. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, this clip, him saying that has been living in my head rent-free all summer. The Brightline? That's more expensive. Oh my gosh, that's so real. Okay, I'm done.